Hi, so I want to review the outer envelope of your fundraising appeals today. I want to talk about size with you, color, taglines, anything on the back, the corner card, whether it's closed-faced or you have a window. All of these things are critical because if you don't have them dialed in, it doesn't matter how fabulous your copy is, how good your pictures are on the inside, your picture captions or your offer, it is dead on arrival. So I also wanted to give a shout out to John Lepp. I didn't realize that a lot of what I've learned about outer envelopes over the years has probably come from him and his research. So thank you, John. I have his book just came out, Creative Deviations. I have not read it, but I'm sure it's going to be a banger because I read all of his blog posts. I've combed through them all. They're incredible, so I can only imagine what's in the book. So I just want to give a shout out because I'm sure a lot of what I'm going to say has come from him and his research. So I've got two envelopes here. Let's talk closed-faced envelopes and window envelopes. So window envelopes perform less well than a closed face. So these are both closed face. We don't have like a little window in there that typically will have the address and the name behind it. So why do closed-faced envelopes work better? Well, they look more personal, and depending on the font you use, it can look like a human touched it. So they did try to use a handwriting font when they did my name and address. And also there's been some research done. Window envelopes tend to pull a higher response rate from people who will give less than $100, while a closed-faced envelope tends to lift response rates from people who give more than $100. So you always want to go with a closed-faced envelope. And as a quick note, you never want to do a self-mailer. Steven Screen's talked about this quite a bit. Self-mailers perform far less well than just a standard closed-faced envelopes. Now let's talk size. So John Lepp says, avoid a white number 10 at all costs. Here we have a number 10. If you're gonna do a white number 10, make it a color, make it lumpy. You need to do something to stand out because everyone uses this. I think John Lepp said about 80% of people get a white number 10 envelope. Envelope size is also a really cool thing to play with if you're wanting to treat your major donors like major donors. So for example, at year end this year, I'm going to do a 9x12 outer envelope. I don't want any fold in the letter or the reply device. I just want to send a very large piece of mail to my major donors. That's going to stand out, and it just shows I'm treating them differently. So that's something Steven Screen has suggested for major donors. And so again, playing with the size, the color, the texture is going to be really helpful. Now, what I want to talk to you about here is the corner card, which is typically where you put the return address. I haven't found as much research on this. However, I know from my own personal experience, when I don't get a return address, I always open it because I really want to know who sent me something. So if you want to play, typically leveraging mystery and intrigue it's always going to benefit you in your appeals. So here you'll see the corner card's empty. World Gospel Mission here, typically that's what you see. You see a logo and the company name. I would play with this. If you want to put your return address on there, put your ED's name and the address underneath it, and don't put your organization on there. These are just ideas, but playing with this upper right-hand corner will be helpful in getting your piece of mail opened. Let's briefly talk about taglines or anything written on your outer envelope. Generally, 70% of the time, your piece of mail will perform better if there is nothing written on the outside. If it is not perfect, do not write anything on the outside of your envelope. Just that should be your default. So for this, you're going to see help provide a Thanksgiving meal and more to a neighbor in need. That tells me I'm going to be asked for money. This probably went in the trash. So they did nail the corner card. They're asking me for money. And even on the back side, tell me it only costs $2.39 to provide a meal and care to someone who lives near me. So the offer is awesome. I just think it would be better, and research has showed us you don't want to scream, I'm asking you for money on the outside of the envelope. Now, this is a really compelling ask. So I could see how an offer like this would perform better than expected, even though it's screaming, give me money, because it's such a low dollar amount to do something really meaningful. So you'd want to test that. But generally speaking, you don't want to have any indication you're going to ask for money. I want to show you a teaser I'm in love with. I got this in the mail. I literally don't even know what Camp Braybird is, but it says maybe some things I shouldn't share. I'm going to open that. I want to know exactly what he's telling me that should be a secret. So great teaser because it's intrigue. Now let's talk about what the problem is here. I've got a QR code right below a amazing teaser saying, would you like to receive updates via email? Scan the QR code. Why is this here? That should not be here. Additionally, like I said, if the corner card, they shouldn't be putting their web address here. It should literally look like it's from a person. And in fact, it looks like it's from an organization that there's no face to. So let's talk about stamps. First class stamps always perform better than other types of stamps. I really liked seeing this on John Lepp's website, one of his blog posts. He talked about in his testing, he's found that a commemorative stamp performs better than a first class stamp, which also performs fabulously well. And then a little bit below that, so not as great as a first class stamp, I gotta look, is a visual indica. Y'all, I had to look that up. And then a standard indica and then metered postage. So I don't know I had to look up an indica. I didn't even know that was on the table for me to use. I just knew a commemorative stamp, a first class stamp, and metered postage. So I always use first class stamps when I'm mailing to my major donors or my monthly givers. So that's something to keep in mind. I didn't talk to you about this. I guess it's actually a teaser. It says 2 years. I personally think, in my humble opinion, I think that's a good teaser because I kind of want to know what 2 years is. Now, I wish they didn't have World Gospel Mission on here because I know when I get mail from them, they're generally asking for funds. So the 2 years to me, it's not as compelling because I know exactly who it's from and I'm used to getting mail like this. Whenever you switch up your mail from baseline, so if you always send, let's say you do great and you send different sized envelopes, but let's say they're always a certain size that's not a number 9, not a number 10, but they're always a specific size. You got to switch it up. When you switch it up, you get a lift in response rates. So that's just something to note. Now let's talk about lumpy mail. Anything that has texture that's 3D. If you can make it 3D with a paper clip, with some sort of object that aligns with the ask or is going with the newsletter, anytime you can add a piece of something with texture, you're going to get a lift in open rates. Tom Ahern sent out a blog post, maybe it was a month and a half ago, talking about this. 250% increase in, this is what it says, from the Direct Marketing Association's response rate report. That's who did the research. They said that 3D dimensional mailings outperform standard mail by 250%. So if you put something in there, you definitely don't want to take away from the offer. You want it to amplify whatever the goal is at that moment, whether it's to raise funds or to thank. For me, at year end, I tend to send a magnet that it aligns with what it is that we're doing. So that's a good way to have 3D mail. If I didn't do that and that wasn't on the table, I would be using a paperclip or something that, again, makes it feel different than regular mail. Last thing is images. So if there's eye contact, if it's visually striking, you can see it easily, and it somehow evokes emotion, use the photo. Otherwise, don't use it. Now, I will tell you, you do want to use, it's best practice, and it performs well when you're doing a newsletter, to send a little icon image of what your newsletter looks like. Put that on the front of your envelope and say, your newsletter enclosed. The Better Fundraising Company, all their testing says that performs well every single time, but that is for a newsletter. For appeals, you don't want a picture unless, and now these are not really pictures. These are they're kind of acting as like a nonverbal teaser. This clearly, they're words, but anyways, this is seasonal, so it's applicable. I don't know. I'd want to test this because, again, across the board, blank envelopes tend to perform best. And so ultimately, it's all the little things you do that hold someone's attention, spike their curiosity, evoke emotion, anything you can do to get that piece of mail opened. That is step one. It's just like an email. It's worthless if you could have the best copy, the best offer. You could be totally worthy of raising tons of funds, but if it doesn't get opened, you're getting nowhere. The top 2 areas to spend your time: creating an offer. What does it cost to do one meaningful thing? If the donor gives X amount of dollars, what does she know she will do? That's critical. You have to have a solid offer, and you repeat that throughout, and then you have to have a good envelope. So for me, I simplify things. I try to switch it up with sizes, maybe colors. I rarely do anything on the outside. I'll change up the corner card. Or maybe a tagline if I have something really good. But again, I tend to just not touch the writing, and I don't do pictures. I try to leave it blank, and that tends to perform a lot better. And also making it lumpy is helpful. So that's what I got for you. Hope that was helpful. I hope that was helpful to you. My name is Danielle Wallace. I am the founder of Grow Better. I help small to mid-sized nonprofits optimize their fundraising results. If you need some help, like if you need a second set of eyes and you need someone to really comb through your year-end package, that would be your direct mail, your email, and then any other pieces you have, contact me, because I put together a package. I thought, some people don't want to work with a consultant, but they want help now. So send me a DM, because I'd love to help you, and we can get something set up so I could review the whole package and make sure your hard work is rewarded at year end.